How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be continuing my Sharks of Summer series. Sharks of Summer is a series where once a week during the summer I take a look at a shark movie, and this week we're looking at Shark Exorcist 2, Unholy Waters. This is from 2024, about 10 years after the first one came out, and once again we have returning director Donald Farmer. This movie stars Jessa Jupiter Flux, Joe Casterline, and Angel Nicole Bradford. Now, right away I do have to establish what Shark Exorcist 1 was. I've seen a ton of bad movies, and there are a ton of lazy, low-effort shark movies, but Shark Exorcist was the one that took the cake. The plot was super indecipherable. It was basically just following random people around, and nothing really happened. There was so much blatant runtime padding, like, hey, there's a character who's gonna find a dead body, let's film him jogging for like 5 minutes before he does that. There's a scene at a carnival where there's two characters, I think they're on a date or something, and you don't really know who the guy is, but they're not mic'd up, and in turn, you don't get any of their dialogue. It's just random scenes that don't fit together, and it's like you just threw a bunch of random footage together and called it a movie. It was lazy, it was boring, it hurt to watch, and from someone who watches a ton of bad movies, I can legitimately say that the first Shark Exorcist was a strong contender for the worst movie I've ever seen. I don't say that lightly. So naturally, being so bad, it did get a lot of attention, and they would make a second Shark Exorcist movie, and it's still bad. It still is following random people around, not much happening, the shark being off in his CGI void, and when he attacks someone it's just like a quick swipe at the camera with a bad effect. At its core, it still is a very lazy, low-effort shark movie, but we are a little bit better. We follow less characters, so the plot instinctively just makes a little more sense. It's a threadbare nothing burger of a plot, but at least I in general know what's going on, and the egregious runtime padding is gone. I mean, things still stretch out way longer than they need to be, but it's a case of, hey, would you rather watch 5 minutes of someone walking around or 5 minutes of an actor trying to be funny? It's bad, but it's not as bad as the first one. It is a slight step up. We went from unbelievably terrible to just pretty bad. So it is a step up, but in turn, it does make it a little bit less of a spectacle. The first one was just so unbelievably awful that a lot of people had to see it. That's why it had the cult following. This one is just bad and lazy. I can't really recommend it. I am glad that they improved a little bit, but this is literally just, hey, where can we film? Let's have the actors try to do something, and I'm pretty sure this whole thing was shot on a cell phone. It's not good, it's lazy, and it's not really enjoyable either. It's bad like the first, but just not as spectacularly terrible. But I guess in order to analyze it further, what's the movie about? I'm not gonna do any major spoilers, but from here on out I do want to break down and analyze a few things, so I'll be avoiding the end, but let's take a deeper dive. We open up with the evil nun from the first movie, and we get a bit of her backstory. It turns out that even though she wasn't supposed to, she had a baby, and one of the other nuns freaked out and killed it, I guess. Yeah, it seems a little forced, but that's the backstory. And then you get the nun taking this baby doll, which I'm assuming is supposed to be a real baby, and just chucking it in the river and summoning the devil shark. And then I guess after all that, the whole first movie happens, and now we're here. And we get a priest that happens to be the brother of the priest from the first movie, and he says, my brother thought he defeated it, but I'm getting reports of shark attacks with burn marks on the victim. The devil shark must be back, and now I have to go and hunt it. And then you get a nun character, and it turns out this nun character is the sister of the nun from the first movie, and she goes, I want revenge. I'm going to kill people and sacrifice them to the devil shark, like this random guy wandering around a fireworks store for a little bit too long. Hey, I'm gonna trick you and sacrifice you. And yeah, you get two characters that are the siblings of the characters from the first movie, just there to fill in the roles and drive the plot along. And then after that, we get our main character. It's this lady, and she's really shallow, and her big goal is to live a life of luxury. She wants to go to Dustin Beach, she wants a 4-star hotel on the beach, and she wants to be pampered. Well, it turns out her current boyfriend won't do any of this, so she decides to go out, be a party dancer, and when she goes on her first job, there's just one guy there, and she tells the guy, hey, my boyfriend wouldn't do this for me. What if we play a strangely long game of movie trivia? Again, we still have runtime padding. And if you lose, then you have to take me to the beach. And you get the whole thing where he thinks it might be a romance, but she's not giving him an inch, and they kind of have to just drive all the way to the beach, and that's, again, a good chunk of the movie. Now, you get them trying to be funny, and you get, like, there's a scene in a random Kroger where they're, like, buying a bunch of bottles of wine. It's not much. The lady really is trying to be funny. In fact, this character is played by Jessa Jupiter Flux, who co-wrote this movie along with the director, so you can see her putting in some effort, but there's not much to work with. You see them going into Kroger, and you can tell this whole thing was just filmed on someone's phone, and they're wandering around trying to make buying wine entertaining and funny. This and the movie trivia and several other conversations, you can tell they are trying. It is so much better than just watching random characters walk around and do nothing. It's not great either, but they are trying something. So it's trying to be a quirky little road trip comedy. Again, we're here for a shark movie, but it's something. It's threadbare, it's not much of anything, but it's something. But that will be our main plot. And then our secondary plot is about this lesbian couple. We start off with one of them doing ziplining, and you can tell that that's just something semi-interesting that they found, and they chose to film it just because they could. So hey, I'm gonna get my phone out and film you going down the zipline. After that, one of them is attacked in the water, and the priest manages to repel the shark, and then they have to deal with the aftermath of one of them almost getting eaten, and maybe the nun is upset that one of her sacrifices escaped. There's a couple plot points there. Honestly, it felt like these characters were supposed to be just a random shark attack sequence, and they decided to stretch it out into like a full subplot, but there's not really much for them to do, and like when you see the impact they actually have on the ending, it is darn near inconsequential. In fact, they're clearly not filmed on the same location or the same day, but they're acting like they're really there. They literally edited them into the ending of the movie. Yeah, we could have found something better for these characters to do, but it just feels a little random. And yeah, there was not much planning that went into this movie. Every now and then, you get a scene with the shark eating somebody. It's less randomness and more focus this time around, but the shark is still barely there. You get the classic him in his void, and then like him swiping at someone in a bad CGI effect. If you're wanting outlandish shark shenanigans, again, this really isn't there. This is the movie where people film themselves wandering through Kroger. Don't expect anything close to the box. And then when we get to the end, it's kind of over without it being any sort of big ordeal. So, as I've been saying, it's far less egregious than the first movie. The first movie was blatant, lazy filmmaking and runtime padding. This is still that, but it's a little more coherent. So not the big bad spectacle that the first movie was, but it still is next to nothing. Not the worst movie I've ever seen, but still pretty bad. Obviously, I can't recommend this. Lazy filmmaking garbage and not worth your time, really. Anyway, though, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my Shark Movies playlist, and in there you can find my review for the first movie. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Playlist here. Have a good day now.